Welcome to FinOps in Action. I'm your host, Alon Arvatz. Each week, I'll sit down with FinOps experts to explore the toughest challenges between FinOps and engineering. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that drive action.
Hey, we're live. Everyone, I just got to say happy National Podcast Day. National, international. We are coming to you live this morning on LinkedIn. I have a very special guest, a very special star of the show, Alon Arvatz from Point 5. He is the host of the most incredible FinOps in Action podcast. And he has put hours and hours, nearing 50 hours, conversations in prep and conversations on the show, podcasting this year. And so we're going to just take a step back and celebrate your accomplishments, Alon. And we're going to talk about your podcast and the industry that you serve. So I'm very excited. And to start, we're going to have this very first question, which is describe FinOps in Action. Describe your podcast in 3 words.
So the 3 words would be elevate FinOps leaders. I can tell that from my perspective, I'm new to FinOps, only a few years into FinOps. And generally, the FinOps industry is a new industry. It's no older than 15 if you go earliest as possible. So it's so many people try to figure out what is FinOps. The FinOps community is trying to raise awareness to cloud costs and cloud efficiency. And there is a lot of room to take the leaders, the people that have done it, that thought through it, that has a ton of experience, and just put their thought out there, put their vision, their experience out there. And that's, for me, part of the mission of the broader FinOps community, to make FinOps something that people know what it's about and also care about.
Man, you didn't start out by saying elevate Alon Arvatz, right? You didn't say, hey, I want to make myself elevated here. You were saying, I want this community to be bigger. I want to make the leaders, I want everyone to know what their stories are so everyone can be much more efficient. Could you even just describe what is FinOps, this new thing that everyone's trying to understand the definition for?
Yes. So the official definition is to help organization understand the value it gets from its investment in the cloud. So in simple words, cloud is something very, very expensive. Enterprises spend millions, sometimes tens and hundreds of billions of dollars a year on cloud. And in this investment, there is a lot of waste, a lot of use you do in the cloud. You pay for it and you don't need it. So you want to clean up the waste. Number 2, the money you put in things that are helpful, you want to make sure that they're being used for the best business outcomes possible. And that's the whole idea of FinOps, to make sure that you make efficient use of the cloud. So 1, making sure you only spend on things that produce value. And number 2, make sure you produce the most value from your current investment. So it goes around use cases of measuring your spend against your budget. It goes to use cases of allocation and saying, okay, this cloud spend, what business outcomes it goes. And actually what Point 5 is focused on, to make sure that you optimize your cloud spend and you only spend on areas that produce value versus paying for waste.
What kind of gap is this podcast filling in this industry?
So I think, and like I said before, FinOps is new. The people in FinOps are new. Most of them have never been out there, outside of the FinOps community, to share their experience and tell what is FinOps and why you should care about FinOps. And the thing about FinOps is that you can only be successful if you collaborate with other people in the organization. In the end of the day, the FinOps person doesn't have the keys to the cloud. The engineers have the keys to the cloud. In the end of the day, the FinOps person is not the one who makes decisions on what is the cloud budget. The executives and finance team, they're making these decisions. So in a way, FinOps cannot be successful unless all the other functions of the organization understand why it's important and understand what it's trying to do. And for me, the podcast is exactly this platform where you can go beyond the FinOps community and share these ideas with broader audiences. I also think that because it's a new space, many companies are starting to add FinOps functions within their organizations. And new people are getting into FinOps right now, and they need a place to learn, okay, I'm now a FinOps person. What do I do next? And
Now,
this is, yeah, now what? Exactly. So the podcast is also a platform for these people to learn and grow over time.
it's amazing to hear that the concept that FinOps is only as successful as how connected it is. And you're using this podcast not only to elevate the leaders amongst themselves, right? It's not just a podcast for FinOps to celebrate FinOps, but for other people to learn more about. So it's like a tool to get everyone else to know more about it.
And listen, Casey, the most frequent idea I hear on my podcast
Yeah.
is that FinOps is a people work. It's about building relationships and working very well with other functions of the organization. That's like the most common idea you can hear on my podcast. It's amazing what a consensus you have around it.
Mm.
And it just goes to the same point. FinOps is only as successful as it collaborates with engineering, with executives, with the finance people.
And the fact that you keep hearing that pattern repeated, I feel like you're it's almost like you've become an industry analyst just by interviewing all these top leaders. You're learning, and you're like, hey, I'm new, but tell me what's important. And they're all telling you connection is important, relationships are important. What other kind of things have you been learning about the industry from just having these conversations?
So tons of stuff.
Yeah,
Another
I
thing that
bet.
I learned, yeah, tons of stuff. I have to tell you something, Casey. I'm surprised how after I don't know how many dozens of episodes I've done, I'm
Yeah,
still learning something from every new guest. Like every time it surprises me. It's absolutely
yeah,
amazing, because each person has its own perspective and
right.
its own framing. So even if it's the same idea, the different framing teaches me something new. But if we go back to patterns, so I think one of the bigger patterns is around what is the biggest challenge today in FinOps. And the biggest challenge, and that also goes across the board, is engagement with engineers. How you
Mhm.
drive action with engineers. Like we said before, the people with the keys to the cloud are the engineers. They're the gatekeepers. They're the only one that can actually drive change in how you use the cloud. And engagement with engineers is hard, not because they don't care, but because there are a lot of competing priorities. If you go back 20 years ago, engineers only had to write code. That's it, and develop new features. They didn't
Right.
even need to care about quality. Like that was the QA department problem. They would deliver, they would ship
Yeah.
features and, hey, QA, go figure out what's wrong and tell me what I need to fix. But that's it. They were just writing code.
It's certainly not
Over the
cost,
year,
right? Like, certainly
certainly not
not.
cost. But through the year, we gave them quality, we gave them performance, we gave them availability, we gave them security, and now also cost. So they have tons of responsibilities on their plate, and we expect them to juggle all of that. So because of the competing priorities, it's really hard to get their engagement and get them to act. Now, add to that the fact that cost is something pretty new, and you realize that there is also a knowledge gap on how you identify inefficiencies, how you resolve them, and that makes it extremely hard to engage with engineers and actually drive action. And that is also something that I keep hearing nonstop. And it's amazing to see like these patterns that goes across the industry.
How do you phrase your questions? When you're thinking about your audience, are you thinking about other FinOps people? Are you thinking about engineers? Do you do you phrase your questions in a certain way? I mean, how do you address the engineers without going too technical, or address the FinOps people but without losing the engineers? How
Yeah.
do you balance all those?
So I feel it's very important to understand who are your crowd. Um, in my podcast, still most of the listeners are FinOps people,
Okay.
most of them. So I try to focus on that persona, which is a very nice persona because it obviously cares and understands FinOps, but it's also a fairly technical persona. So that allows me and my guests to also speak on technical terms on cloud. So I won't get to the code level, but my guest speaks freely about different architectures and different technical concepts that they're tackling and dealing with.
Right.
So for me, like defining the listeners and understanding your audience, that's the most important thing. From that from that point, it's mostly downhill, understanding what to talk about, how technical you want to get. I can tell when I started the podcast, I had a bank of questions. I had like 20 questions that I would choose, pull, and ask. I stopped that. I just
Mm,
came to conclusion that the most effective thing is one to understand what your guest is passionate about and talk about that. Once you hit this point of passion, you will have so much content and you will have so many follow-up questions, and the follow-up question will have so many great answers that you don't need this bank of questions. So
that's fair.
I do have one hook question that I ask everyone, an interesting one, which is, what is the one thing you got wrong when you started FinOps career? That actually get completely different answers from any guest. And from there, it's just tackling the areas of passion in it, having a conversation, asking questions that I'm genuinely interested to hear their answers. And that fills up easily an entire episode of the podcast.
And it's interesting because with your show, you can tell that that's the case. Your guests are not giving you these like, well, yeah, here's my one word answer, and I don't really care. I don't want to be on the show. They are on fire. It almost doesn't it. The problem then become just what question can you get to with the time you have left, right? There's so many paths you can follow.
Exactly, exactly. And honestly, it also makes it fun for me. In the beginning, it was a lot more stress around how I fill up the time, what question I need to choose, what question will he answer, and he'll have something to say about. I don't care about it anymore. It
Nice.
just, I know what my guest is passionate about. I ask a small question, and a whole river of ideas and a lot of passion is just coming out.
It's so good. And when you do that, it just signals to your guests that they're important. And when you're calm, it helps calm them, and it just makes the whole thing just work so well. Now, you mentioned early on you had extra questions and all these other things, and it was a different process, probably felt a lot differently. Question to you would be, what was maybe one of the challenges when you first started? What was like one of the biggest challenges you had?
Yeah, so first of all, one of the bigger challenges was to get the guests. In the
Right.
beginning, no one knew about the podcast. Why would someone be on a podcast that he doesn't know if it even have listeners and how good the podcast is and how good the host is? So getting the people was challenging. I can tell you that also a lot of it didn't come natural to me. I've never hosted anything. So doing the intro without sounding too robotic was a challenge. I was still, okay, I need to say that, and now I'm trying to say what I need to say, and that it came out not natural.
Sure.
So that was a challenge as well. And the last one is a challenge I share with you. It was like, okay, how am I feeling all the time that I have to complete the whatever 45 minutes I have for the show? And at some point I just said, okay, you know what? I don't care about the time. 25 minutes, 45 minutes. Who cares? I want it to be interesting. I want it to be about interesting questions, about things that the guest have interesting insights to share. So one, I completely release the time. I don't care. Seriously. And as long as I'm having fun, I'm going with it. And I stop with the bank of questions. I only make it a conversation that I'm having fun. And I also started adding a lot more jokes, which make it fun for me, at least. I hope for my audience. Who knows? Maybe they don't like my humor, but at least I'm having fun.
Well, if they don't like it, they can fast forward through it. But something tells me they're listening to your show because of the humor, because you get the real you, not the robot you who's nervous or who just didn't know how to. Man, you have just like changed completely. You have evolved as a podcast host in that period of time. It's amazing to see, really. It sounds
Uh,
like you're having fun too. The guest is having fun. You're having fun.
I am. I'm actually looking forward to it. When I'm looking at my calendar and like the evening before, and I
Yeah.
see that I have a recording tomorrow, that's fun. That's
Yeah.
fun. And honestly, I'm the CEO of the company. Most of my meetings is discussions and making hard decisions. That's most of my day. You have to understand. So suddenly in the middle of the day, I have like this window where I can just sit with a great person, have a discussion. It's actually a break for me. A
Yeah.
nice break to, go outside of the usual routine and have a nice conversation. We don't do it anymore.
Yeah, we should, right? We should. I see that break and yeah, no decisions to make other than what do I want to ask next? And what joke should I use this time?
Exactly.
Do you have any advice for those starting into podcasting, especially in this business space, whatever industry they're in, but they're just getting started?
So I think I already shared a few advice.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do
Please
wanna,
include it.
yeah, I do wanna actually talk to the people that are thinking about starting and say, just do it. Great things will happen. So, you know, I was also concerned in the beginning how I'm going to be. Am I going to be able to ask all the right questions? Am I going to attract new guests? That the podcast is going to worth my time and effort that I'm putting into it, how much effort it will take for me. I have a lot of concerns. The reality is once you start doing it, things become easier. You learn how to optimize your time in a way that it's actually a break in the middle of your day. And you learn how to make it a fun exercise, a fun time. And it just becomes something that's like part of your day to day or part of your week. And their conclusion is you should just start
Just
and great things will happen.
man, that is powerful. One final question for you, because I know we have to let you go back to making hard decisions and hopefully podcasting too today. Um, if I happen to have a time machine and you come visit me and we use this time machine, but we go into the future and we get to see your podcast about 50 episodes from now, about a year from now, what do you hope is the case for your pod?
So first of all, I hope to really grow my audience. So obviously we see the growth from episode to episode. Um, More people are listening in. We see the retention rate growing as we improve the podcast. So I actually want to see it like, growing. And I hope to get to the hundreds of people listening every episode, besides like the people that are tuning in ad hoc. So I want to have like this consistent base of audience. I think that's something that is pretty big. And I hope that like the podcast will be a resource that the industry is aware of and also go back to when they want to learn about a specific topic. So we're making an effort that every episode will have like, main topic that we highlight on the title. And I hope it will just become a resource that people also go back to and
Yeah,
learn about a specific topic of interest.
man, that was powerful. Alon, thank you so much for coming on here. Happy podcasting day. You've got an amazing show, FinOps in Action. I wish you all the best success and I can't wait to celebrate, 50 episodes from now when all those things have come true and it really is a resource for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, especially for giving me the opportunity to be on this other side of the microphone.
I've asked you the questions this time.
Exactly. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Casey. That wraps up another episode of FinOps in Action. Thank you for joining. For show notes and more, please visit finopsinaction.com. This show is brought to you by Point 5, empowering teams to optimize cloud costs with deep detection and remediation tools that drive action.